Okay, it's recording now.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. And over.
Uh, okay, yeah.
All right, sweet.
We good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Three, two, one.
Alrighty. Welcome everybody to a little different episode of Palm Blisters. Unfortunately, we have to do this on Zoom, but it's okay. This is episode 5 now, right?
Yeah, episode
I believe,
five.
yeah, episode
Yeah,
five.
episode 5. It's crazy. Feels like yesterday we already did the first episode, but yeah, we're
Yeah.
here, episode 5. What are we talking about today?
So
We
today
are
we're talking.
going,
Sorry.
Chris, go ahead. You were saying it?
Yeah. So today we're gonna be talking about some gaming news, upcoming games, upcoming consoles, and just some general like future of gaming type stuff.
Cool. All right. What do you guys want to start off with? What's hot right now in the news?
What's hot in
Uh,
gaming news?
I've been hearing a bunch of the Nintendo Switch 2 keeps having a bunch of rumors pop up every now and then.
I have seen that. Now, did they say like any like projected like release date for that or anything?
I've been hearing 2025.
Really?
Same.
So
Nice.
that's a lot
That's
sooner than
next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
wow. That's
I could
crazy.
imagine it. I could imagine it coming out this December if they announce it by the end of this month or next month, because that
Hmm.
gives them enough time to drum up like hype before a holiday season.
And have they talked about like any of like the specs about it? Like what's like
No, I don't think
built?
there's been like an official source on it. It's all been leakers who are trusted, which is always kind of shady.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I would love to see like because like I own a Switch and like I own like an Xbox as well and like I've owned like a bunch of consoles like over the years and I noticed like with these like newer gen consoles I guess you could say like Switch is like up there as like a new gen console like in consideration but like I feel like in terms of like running games it doesn't compete as well as like Xbox and PlayStation in terms of console.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
So for Switch 2, I would love for them to see like put in like some sort of like processor and all this like high tech like stuff like that, PlayStation and Xbox are using so Nintendo has the chance to play these like high demanding games. Um, because like even like when it comes to like sports games, I know like Switch has like games like FIFA and stuff like that, but like if you look at like FIFA like on a Switch compared to like a PlayStation or Xbox, it just looks like you're playing on like the iOS like or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
played
to
um I've played Doom on the Nintendo Switch. That ran pretty well. I didn't think it looked too bad.
Really? I didn't even know
Yeah.
Doom was on the Switch.
Yeah.
That's
Doom and
actually
So something they could add to Switch to allow them to play like more AAA type games is have you guys heard of DLSS?
no.
I
So
heard.
so that's something that a lot of PC games use where it's like an option for PC gamers. It basically um upscales like let's say like you want your game to be in 4K. You can play it you can set on DLSS, which it'll run the game at 1080p, but it upscales dynamically to 4K
Oh,
um, to be less demanding on your like GPU. Um, so that's something that like maybe like Nintendo could work with and implement into the Switch 2 to allow, these more expansive games, better graphics, like by just upscaling from like let's say even 720p to a higher resolution. Um, that way they can keep the small form factor, keep it lightweight and like portable, but it would still be able to run bigger games.
That is the bonus of a Switch is that it's portable.
Yeah.
Like other consoles, I see all the time that like Xbox and PlayStation they make like these like third party like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like almost like a laptop screen, but you
Hmm.
hook your console up to it and it kind of makes your console portable. But even that, it's like you're holding like a whole suitcase to play video games.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
I did, enjoy the
They
Switch
had,
so, and I still do enjoy the Switch. It's so nice because it's like if I want to like go on vacation, like I could just boot up like something like Animal Crossing, like just on the car ride or something, or even Smash.
And it's
Right.
great for, like bringing to just like a party or something, because then you can bring out Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart.
Exactly.
Absolutely. One thing that like so PlayStation has remote play, which is streaming games to like your phone or like they even have like their own little system. I forget what it's called. Um,
I think it's like
for
the PlayStation Portal.
yeah, PlayStation Portal. Yeah, something like that. So like I'm wondering once streaming games gets better, I feel like Nintendo Switch would have a lot more competition from at least Sony. And then Microsoft obviously has what's it called? Their streaming service for games.
Game
Uh,
Pass.
Game
Game Pass,
Pass.
yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like even though Switch is able to play these games like natively, like on the actual system, I feel like streaming games will probably get a lot better in the near future, and that could add some serious competition to the Switch.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we've seen literally what happened with, just the entertainment industry, just like, like Netflix, for example. I mean, Netflix became,
The
it was
dinosaur, the giant.
yeah, like it was
Mhm.
literally like a disc service, and then they upgraded the quality of streaming, and now it's like, you could stream any movie you want at perfect quality. Well, not perfect quality. It's definitely not at the same, like I think we touched a bit on the last episode, like the pros of owning like physical media.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think there's an avenue for physical media to have a comeback, and that's that everyone's paying the exact same price every month now, but no one's buying DVDs, and like the individual DVD sales can add up to a greater amount than you might have gotten from streaming. And since those DVD sales are dying out, they might
yeah,
start to realize that.
yeah,
I definitely think streaming, as much as I don't want it to be like the only option in the future, I think we're headed in that direction. Um,
yeah. So,
and especially, I don't think there's going to be physical media for the next Switch. For the next Switch, like I highly doubt there's going to be physical games. Like on the Switch now, you can buy like little. I think they're on like SD cards or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
disagree about like all the games being on streaming. I know for a fact that a lot of indie devs really hate the state of like the main AAA industry, so they're probably going to keep releasing their titles out for download or actually owning it as
I
best they
hope so.
can on like
Yeah,
the like stuff like a new Hollow Knight game is probably going to be something you can buy and then you own it rather than having to stream it.
yeah.
right.
Um, I'm just thinking like, especially where Microsoft is going, I feel like they're focusing all their manpower on Game Pass. Like, I don't think there's even gonna be a next Xbox after the Series X.
I've been hearing
Uh,
that too.
Yeah.
It's funny, I like as we speak, I was like looking up some like, like big news articles. And yeah, it seems like within the next few years, it seems like Microsoft is just kind of dropping off the face of like the competition of, the console wars, really. Like it seems like they're not really aiming to make a new console anytime soon, and just really trying to compete anymore. I feel like they kind of just like they're waving the the white flag and they're kind of just like, you
I
know what,
mean,
Nintendo, you guys.
PlayStation has been beating them for the last two generations, and they don't even have games anymore. People always talk about I remember the Xbox 360 being the big console for the sixth generation, I believe it was, the Xbox 360.
I think that was the
So
seventh gen. Was it? Or
no, I think that was sixth gen,
was it
seventh
set? Oh
gen
yeah,
is,
okay.
and then
Yeah.
but then I think eventually PS3 did outsell it, and then PS4 blew Xbox One out of the water.
Yeah, I
And
mean PS4 was one of the best selling consoles like
Yeah.
ever. It
Yeah.
and then when
wasn't
I
the
was
best, but it's close.
the PS2 was actually the best selling console of
Yeah.
all time.
I think it's
Well,
PS2 is the best, and then like Wii is around second. Um,
we Nintendo Switch and Nintendo DS.
yeah. And then PS4 is up there though. It's
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's definitely up there. And it's funny you mentioned like all that, like the competitions. Like, I feel like me personally, I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I mean, this is how I went through consoles, and like I see it all over the internet. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, this is how you went through consoles," and it was like Xbox 360 and Wii, and then PS4, and then PS4 to like PS4 and Switch, and then like PS5. You know.
Yeah, I see that with a lot
Yeah.
of people. I'm one of the few people who really liked the PS3 rather than the Xbox 360. And I don't want to start like console wars because
I
that's immature.
I like I
But
like PlayStation 3 too.
um yeah, just some of the like I don't want to be like a
I,
Sony fanboy because they're a big corporation, but like some of the selling points for PS3 for me was it had Blu-ray, which was a big thing. Like Xbox 360 didn't have Blu-ray. Uh,
Hmm.
and then the launch console was backwards compatible with the PS2 and PS1, which
that's
was
really cool.
nice.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
I think my PS4, no, my PS3 doesn't play a lot of PS2, PS1, which is really
Yeah.
disappointing for me.
Yeah, so I'm lucky because my brother got the launch model of the PS3, and I still have it to this day. He kind of like gave it to me. Um, and like that launch model, I understand why a lot of people went to the Xbox because the Xbox was way cheaper. It had all the same games.
PS3
However,
also didn't. PS3's library was also pretty small when it first came out.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a big selling point for Xbox was I think they had more games at launch. Um,
Yeah.
but
This generation, I'm concerned because there's so few PS5 games you can't already get on PS4. So it
yeah,
makes me like, what's the PlayStation 6 gonna have?
right.
Like,
Well, it's just
yeah.
like they have the developers, I feel like, but it's just taking so long for these games to come out. Um, like like Naughty Dog, for instance, they haven't released that it's one of Naughty Dog is one of Sony's biggest developers. They haven't released one game exclusively for PS5 yet. Well, unless you count The Last of Us Part 1
That's a
like
remake.
remake, but that it's a remake. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then like
I'm also unsure about how much of a remake it is. Like they probably reused a lot of like assets, maybe not with textures and models and stuff,
I will
but
say no, it's actually a really good remake. Think like it's like basically The Last of Us 1 with even better graphics than The Last of Us Part 2. So it's
Yeah.
like
Wow.
I honestly
yeah.
I purchased it. I really enjoyed playing through The Last of Us again because it's one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
Um, but what I was saying though, like Naughty Dog has not released a new game exclusively for PS5 because their last big game was The Last of Us Part 2 that came out at the tail end of PS4's generation. So like
Right.
it's crazy. We're
Yeah.
how many years into the PS5? 4 years. You know, that's like
Wait,
half.
Yeah. I think
yes, we
3 or
year
4
4.
came out in
Half a
what?
lifespan, and it's got
Yeah,
so little.
because most consoles last what 7, 8 years is a
Yeah,
typical lifespan. Um,
and I think for the AAA to survive, they need to give up on the graphics race and just focus on what they can do with what they have right now. The advancement is moving too fast for people to catch up with,
yeah,
and it's making everything take way longer and cost way more.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, something
That.
that could speed up some game development is AI actually is using AI to create like textures and stuff like that. It's something I've heard about, which is
I'm
interesting.
just, I'm very uncertain about that. I don't want that to be the path things go down. I
I
want
think
video
it would
games to
be, I disagree. I think it would be very useful for game development. Obviously, I would want human oversight. Let's say like you dedicate AI towards um, kind of just like building like some of the rural areas of like certain maps. Like let's say like for Red Dead 2, for instance, like having AI generate some of the landscapes, like some of the like the textures and stuff like out in the desert, like I would be perfectly fine with that. I obviously have a human like, you know, go and
nice.
check if it's all right.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think a
But
lot of elements in the terrain are already randomly generated.
okay. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I saw
And
something about AI like
In
that.
in terms of
as for
developing the game,
as
like, oh, sorry, you go, Justin.
as for stuff like textures, I'm also concerned about that because that would heavily affect art direction in a lot of games. So like have something create the designs for something else, like
Yeah, I
I don't
know
know.
I see what you're saying. It's definitely like an ethical dilemma. However, like for things that aren't necessarily like uh super like artistic like elements, I'm okay with AI
I also,
generating it.
I'm also kind of thinking I don't know how difficult those would be that AI needs to really be necessary to replace it.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, in terms of like development of games, I don't know how AI will come into place. I mean, like maybe for designing maps and like randomly generating maps and stuff like that. But
I mean,
I
that technology already exists. There's No Man's Sky, there's
yeah,
like
No
all
Man's
those
Sky.
roguelike games. I think
Um,
Binding of Isaac has a lot of randomly generated maps.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I know like in terms of like the actual design, like have you guys heard of the game The Finals?
I
Yeah.
have
No.
not.
It just recently came out. It's kind of like it's by a new studio called Embark Studios. It's actually from a few developers that branched off of DICE, who made the Battlefield games. Um, and they kind of made their own game where it's supposed to be like a game show and all this stuff, but there's announcers announcing the game, and um, they're totally AI. They're just AI
Dude,
generated.
I
Um,
don't
when my friend came over one time and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's like I want to try the finals." And he's like, "Dude, I really like the voice actor for the announcer." Like he's like, who plays the announcer?" And I'm like, "That's AI. Like no, there's no actor. Like
I
they
don't
got
like that. I
yeah,
think it's just gonna
why?
replace voice
Because
actors.
for a career, like I'm actually like I'm considering going into voice acting. I feel like it'd be fun and something to try out. So it's kind of scary knowing that AI is like,
And
taking, doing voice
It's
acting. And I'm
stuff
like,
no,
like
it's
that,
very
I feel
scary.
like
Yeah.
eventually the commentary just kind of becomes mush. You don't really remember it because it's just generic.
yeah,
Whereas
Yeah.
there are games where you're like playing in some kind of sport where there's commentators. There's two examples I have are Mad World for Wii and then Ratchet Deadlock for PS2. Both of them involving you taking place in this like desk game show. And there's characters who act as commentators and they have much more defined personalities. They are written characters. And the fact that they are written for the story and like what they say corresponds to what was planned, I think makes them a lot more memorable than just a computer algorithm coming up with the best it can.
yeah.
Um,
A lot more personality put into it when the personality is writing it, is what I'm trying to get at.
No, I
Absolutely.
agree. And like there's like there's so many voice actors out there that are like just so iconic and that
Yeah.
like that do voice acting for so many different things, not just video games. Like they might be in a video game, the next thing you know they're in a TV show or they're in an anime or something. And it's just it's cool like kind of pointing that out, being like, "Oh, like that kind of sounds like he's using elements like the same as like I'm sure you guys know who Troy Baker is. He's a very
Yeah.
renowned Naughty
Yeah.
There's
Dog
there's
voice actor.
there's Steve Blum. He's a very iconic voice actor. Have you guys
Yeah.
seen Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he was the voice of the main character in Cowboy Bebop. He played one of the main characters in Star Wars Rebels, and I believe when they had him show up in live action, he still did the character voice while someone was a suit actor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of video games, a lot of like early ones. I can't name any video game roles off the top of my head. He was the main character in Mad World. Have you guys ever played No More Heroes?
I haven't, but
No.
I've seen some people play it.
He's played a few characters in No More Heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so many voice actors out there that are so iconic. Like Liam was saying, Troy Baker, Nolan North is another one that comes to mind for me.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, Stephen
I mean,
Ogg. Like, there's so
ah,
many.
Steven.
Yeah, there's so many voice actors. Like, it would be a shame for AI to steal these jobs from these talented voices. And like Liam was saying, like he's thinking about going into voice acting. He's on radio right now. Um, it's important to have that human voice, that human personality behind the microphone. Um,
It
like
just
there's
makes it
just
genuine. It's like I
yes,
don't know. I don't know how to describe it other than like it just makes it very genuine and just like I guess more pleasing to listen to in a way. Like knowing
yeah.
that these are real people talking. Like,
Yeah, there's a
but
persona behind it. It's not
yeah,
like it's someone you could relate to. You're not going to relate to a robot, you know?
no.
Um, and now that's not to say that there's not use cases for AI in video games. Like I think it'd be fine for open world games with like tons of AI or with tons of NPCs to make some of the NPCs have AI elements. Like
Well,
for like I wouldn't be mad if GTA 6, a lot of the NPCs were AI, as long as it's good AI and not like
I
super
mean,
generic.
are we just talking about the AI where, how they respond like in combat,
Yeah.
or that's just
Or
where
even dialogue. For
I don't
like
want.
for some of the NPCs at least, like if it accelerates how fast a game can come out, I wouldn't be mad for like super minor NPC characters to be AI.
I'd prefer not to. I mean, if that kind of detail puts so much strain on your workers, maybe cut it out entirely. If like you're gonna if AI is your option, then just don't do it. Is my thought, because it's just gonna kind of kill it for me if I know that it doesn't have that human touch to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. However, I kind of disagree. I think if it can make a game better and more expansive, have more NPC characters, to have more dialogue options, to make them, even if it is AI, if it makes these characters feel more lifelike because they have more dialogue options, and they react to what you do on game, like let's say for like GTA or any open world game, like in GTA 5, for instance, there's only so many dialogue options that the NPC characters have. Like if there was AI behind them, that gave them infinite amount of dialogue options and to react to what you do to them, I think that would be really cool. And I wouldn't be mad about like it not having personal touch because they are just minor characters. I wouldn't want any of the main story characters to be AI, obviously, um, because main characters need a real person behind them.
It's funny we're talking about this because I just found this great article. It's talks about EA's CEO. He's saying how generative AI like is a $1 billion opportunity in gaming, but like it goes in depth and it talks about like how like we're embracing the growth of generative AI, but like everyone in the industry is like fearing about their jobs and how that'll like be entirely replaced by AI. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting article that I'm browsing through right now. They said the CEO says he believes it could offer deeper, more immersive experiences within the company and the wider industry in the next 5 years. So I'm assuming we're, especially with EA games, we'll probably see a lot more AI, immersive AI, even though EA doesn't, in recent years, hasn't put out too many good games, I'd say, in my opinion.
I
Uh,
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I feel like a lot of these people endorsing AI, I said EI, I mean AI, are the people in the boardrooms rather than the people who are actually working as devs. That's one of the things for me is a lot of the people who talk about these opportunities for all these industries aren't the people who are the actual like artisans or artists creating these things.
yeah, it's the higher ups that
Yeah.
like they don't, they're just like they're just watching everything happening. They're not necessarily doing the actual developing. They're just investing in the money that the company needs to make these games, and if it makes it cheaper for them to,
And
use AI and it's more efficient, they're gonna do it.
Well, yeah,
and
it's
it's
all
like
about. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
and it's like I don't want to be mean, but I do think a lot of the examples you were using for how they could use AI in games is a lot of stuff that's more speeding up the process rather than actually enhancing it.
Yeah, no, that's entirely true. I mean, because look at how games are put out today. I mean, every game I feel like they announce a game and the next thing you know, a year later it's already out and it's not a complete game and you're like, great, they just wanted to speed up the process just so they could get that money faster. And
Yeah.
they do, but then the game gets so much backlash and it ends up just either shutting down or it just no one plays it anymore. And it's a shame. I feel like, like there's so many companies out there that like were renowned for like making such good games, and I feel like now the games that they put out is just, they're just you play it for like a few days and you're like, this isn't great. Why did I spend my money on this?
Yeah, I agree. I can't think of the last game I played that I like actually really enjoyed for like, months on end. Like it's been years for me since I had a game like that, which is unfortunate. And
Well,
part of that is like what you were saying is like a lot of these games now are just like cash grabs. Like they force them out too quick. They're
that
not
that
fully developed. You know,
Dead Rising 4 was a really depressing game to see for me.
it was
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know it's funny actually recently I just started playing Dead Rise or was it not Dead Rising? Dead
Back for
Island.
Blood of Dead Island 2.
Um and it's funny because like years and years ago, I forget the company that was developing it's I think it starts with a V, I forget. But they made Dead Island 1 and Dead Island 1 was like great. It was like one of my favorite like zombie games out there. Um and they promised Dead Island 2. This was back in like 2012. They made a trailer for it. They showed it at E3 and everything. Um, and then the company just dropped it, and a new company just picked it up in recent years. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna take over it. And they took it over, what, I think it was like last year, and the game already came out, and the game has nothing but bad reviews. I'm playing it myself, and I'm like, struggling to enjoy it myself. I'm like, man, like I enjoyed the first one so much. Like, why is this just not fun? Um,
Yeah,
and-
no, I remember seeing that trailer for Dead Island 2 like a decade ago or more than a decade ago
yeah,
and being hyped for the game because that first trailer I was like, "Oh, this looks awesome." And I remember playing Dead Island 1 and
mhm,
it was such a great game. And
yeah,
then I kind of just like forgot that Dead Island 2 was even a thing until it was re-announced like a decade later and then I never played the Dead Island 2 because I saw some of the reviews and I was like, "Oh, this looks terrible or this sounds terrible." So,
I've I've only been playing it because I do have Xbox and I do have Game Pass, and they just put it out on Game Pass. So I'm like, you know what? I might as well try it, see how it goes. And I'm like, I'm just playing it. I'm playing it. I'm like, the story's nothing appealing. Like the gameplay, like there's really no new mechanics or anything. It's just like, I'm like, what is going on here? Like it's just, uh,
yeah.
and
I
the
was
Well,
graphics
looking.
just about the same. Um, yeah,
I
I'm
was,
trying to
I
get
was
my
just.
friends to
I,
download it to make it more fun,
I
but
think Dom's trying to say something.
oh, sorry, Dom.
Yeah, I was looking it up, and like Dead Island 2 switched developers twice during
Oh,
development.
really?
so
Yeah.
who actually ended up developing the game then?
So it was a studio called Dam Buster Studios, which is part of Deep Silver.
Okay.
Okay, Deep Silver. Okay, so yeah,
Deep Silver sounds familiar,
Deep Silver, I think, is the original company that made the first one. So I guess it's a smaller company within Deep Silver, I
I
guess.
guess. Well, if you want a good replacement to Dead Island, Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2 are
That's
fantastic
it.
games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
I played a bit of the first.
they have a lot of the same elements as Dead Island, so
Oh, yeah. No, I played the first one. The first one was fantastic.
yeah.
Um, just the second one I couldn't afford.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah.
Another game that's taken a long time to come out, Metroid Prime 4. That's something I'm looking forward to, though a little cautious of. That also is a game that switched developers. That was something that was actually like publicly talked about though, where Nintendo talked about how the people they were working with, they weren't feeling like it was up to par with the series in the past, so they went back to the original developers for the first three Metroid Prime games. And that was 2 years into the development, which was I think back in 2019. So they restarted development basically around 4 or 5 years ago now.
Well,
Have you
Wow.
guys ever played the Metroid Prime games?
I
I
have
played the
not. I've
first
always
one.
wanted to.
Yeah,
Um,
they're very, very good.
I forget which one I played. I played one briefly on the GameCube. I for,
That was
I
either
forget,
one or two.
I forget if it was one or two. I forget. Because I didn't even own it. I played it at my neighbor's house like many, many years ago. But yeah, other than that, like I
Well,
haven't.
the first one's been remastered on Nintendo Switch, so I'd recommend playing that if you want to try them again.
I'm gonna
That one
have to.
also changes the controls, so the first one has weird tank controls, while the version on the Nintendo Switch, you can play it like a normal FPS where you just look around in any direction with the right joystick.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, I might have to check that out. Do you know how much it is? Because that's the one thing that's like preventing me from
40,
getting games is like
40
the money.
bucks, I think.
How much?
40 bucks.
Oh, that's not terrible.
Yeah, that's not too
Because
bad. Considering a
um,
lot of games are like $70 now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's another thing I hate. Like, uh, as far as I know, like games used to be like what, like
$50.
50. Yeah,
They,
it was like
I when I was a kid, then they changed it to $60, and I was so mad, but I got over it, and now they're $70, and I feel even more hesitant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since they switched it to $70, I'm like I can't afford that.
I
Like,
Yeah,
haven't
it's like
bought I haven't bought a new game since they switched it to 78, I think.
I
I
think
don't
I've
think I have that either.
Yeah.
I think I've only gotten one game for $70, the new Ratchet and Clank.
Hmm.
Mm, yeah,
Oh, and oh wait, and Tears of the Kingdom.
okay, that I think that might be the only game, and that was definitely worth the $70. Because that's the thing, I'm
I,
like, these games are $70. I don't know if I want to spend $70 and just play it for a day or two because every game that's being put out now is just a cash grab. So I'm
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
well, not all of them. I think Nintendo, not to sound like a Nintendo fanboy, but their game output has been pretty good for the last. It's been consistently good. I feel like
no, absolutely. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean,
they're
I feel like
they're scummy.
Nintendo's
They can be
sorry.
scummy in a lot of other aspects, but their game development remains pretty good.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
They're definitely very consistent. I feel like because I mean, you see like the games they've been putting out recently, like they put well, Tears of the Kingdom, and then like what was the new Super Mario game, Wonder,
Oh yeah, and there's also the Mario RPG remake. I played that. That's
the
really
Mario
good.
RPG remake, exactly. Like they're just
They've
very
got the thousand.
consistent.
They got the Paper Mario remake coming out this pretty soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So, see, they
So
know what the people want.
yeah, definitely. Are there any upcoming games that you guys are like super hyped for?
Hmm.
Ooh,
I honestly can't think of any.
I'm
uh,
excited about the new Yakuza. I have to actually play through all the other Yakuza games first. I'm on Yakuza 5 right now. Then I've got to play Yakuza 6. Then I've got to play Yakuza 7. Then Like a Dragon Gaiden. They rebranded as Like a Dragon a few years ago. And then the
hmm,
new one, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
nice. Yeah. I'd say for me, I mean, obviously GTA 6 will be in the back of my head. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
that's gonna be good.
recently I'm like, so out of nowhere, I think I told you guys I play this one game. It's called Smite. It's a MOBA. It's a lot of fun. Out of nowhere, like with like no like there was no build up to it. They were just like, yeah, we're making Smite 2 and it's actually coming out soon. Um, because they were just developing it like all these years, like just behind the scenes, which I'm like kind of happy about. But it's just basically it's essentially the same game. It's just with Smite, the original Smite, it's built off of Unreal Engine 3, which is like now that's 2 generations old. They're on Unreal Engine 5 now. So Smite will be on like a whole new, like fresh new engine, new graphic update, you know. So I'm excited for that. Just because Smite I've been playing for about 7, 8 years now. So yeah, just to see like a new like refresh like version of it, I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Uh, for me, I would say obviously GTA 6.
Yeah.
No, we've been talking about that a lot, but
Mhm.
it's such a big game. Like it's gonna be I think it's gonna be amazing. I have faith in Rockstar. Um, as far as other games, I know it hasn't even been announced yet, but The Last of Us Part 3, like they need to wrap up that story. And I know the directors has confirmed there is going to be a third one, but it's probably going to be years out, probably the very tail end of the PS5 generation, if I had to guess, like 2028, is like my guess for when it might come out.
I
Uh,
just
yeah.
I saw somewhere I was looking at articles, like the PS, like there will be a PS6. There was rumors hinting like I think Sony had like some job offerings. Um, Yeah, it said based on a 2021 job listing from Sony that suggests the development of a new console. We can assume that the PS6 will release around 2026. I don't know how realistic that is. Um,
I don't know if that's realistic because from all the rumors I've been hearing, there's supposed to be a PS5 Pro coming out this year.
Yeah, it'd be weird to
Um,
Yeah.
release that, then have a whole new
yeah,
console 2 years later.
right.
yeah,
Which honestly, I don't think a PS5 Pro is necessary. I feel like the only reason there had to be a PS4 Pro is because the jump from 1080p TVs to 4K, like in the middle of that generation.
yeah.
Like I don't think a PS5 Pro is necessarily needed. I
Now, do they say like anything about the PS5 Pro? Like what's going to be added? Like what's new about it? Like,
I think basically just a better GPU, like being able to run more games at 4K, 120 frames per second.
mm,
Um, maybe even some 8K stuff, but like no one's gonna, no one needs 8K. No one has an
Uh,
8K TV, you know.
exactly.
But like I could see people wanting more games to run natively in 4K and 120 frames per second. Like that's super cool. A lot of new TVs coming out offer 4K 120.
Yeah.
So I I could see kind of the argument of like, oh, I want the best of the best. Like I want to run these games in super high resolution, super high frame rate. I get the argument, but if you already have a PS5, I don't think it's worth the upgrade. But if you still haven't bought a PS5 and the PS5 Pro does come out this year, I think it's probably worth it to get the PS5 Pro, especially if you have a new TV that supports 120 frames per second.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the 2026 for the PS6 definitely doesn't sound realistic. I think you were right, like 2028, because I mean, what do we say,
yeah,
like console duration, like 7, 8
like
years?
yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't mind if
about
they wait longer for the PS6, give the PS5 a few more years than usual. Like let devs figure out, like catch up with the games library and stuff rather than rush because we have to get this next console out in a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, can we
yeah.
talk about like so let's say there is no next gen Xbox and
Hmm.
PlayStation does make a PS6, which I think they will. Um, like there's going to be no competition. It's going to be a monopoly.
I
Uh,
mean, there's Nintendo.
there's
The only
Nintendo,
comp
but Nintendo and Sony and Xbox, like Nintendo has always like been on its own. Like
Yeah,
it's not a
Nintendo doesn't.
direct competitor.
They don't feel
Um,
like a competitor because it feels like if you have a PlayStation, having a Switch isn't exactly. It's not a choice between having a Switch and PlayStation because almost everyone has a Switch right now.
yeah. Yeah, so like if PS6 is the only console, and there is no Xbox, obviously Nintendo will keep doing their own thing, but like we said, that's not really a direct competitor. Like I think game quality is gonna go even more downhill because like there's no competition between like any exclusives anymore if Xbox does go away. Um,
yeah.
like I think things are only going to get worse for the gaming industry if that does happen.
The only thing I can think of is, I mean, we're talking about like consoles here, but also like a lot of people have like been switching to PC recent years. Like, there's a lot of good PC exclusives out there. Um, that's the only thing I can think of in terms of competition wise. Um, but
Maybe
other,
Yeah,
if Google,
yeah,
maybe if Google tries making the Stadia 2.
yeah.
The
I don't
first
think we'll
first
see
one was a
that.
disaster. First one was a
Stadia,
disaster.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, second time's the charm, man. Stadia sweep. It's gonna happen. Just wait and see.
There's
Right.
been a few like PC like not PC consoles but like gaming like decks or whatever
Yeah, like the
that
Steam Deck.
yeah, like the Steam Deck, stuff like that. It tries to compete with like Xbox and PlayStation, but it's PC is in a whole different league, like
Yeah.
because you actually have a PC, you can do anything on a PC. You can't do anything on a
Mods
PlayStation
are
or
a big
Xbox.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing old
Um,
games like emulations.
Yeah.
Right.
And
The
Um,
not that I download games for free to emulate them. You shouldn't do that because that's against the law and stuff.
and the thing with PCs is that a lot of PlayStation exclusives are slowly coming to like Steam. So a lot of people will just wait like the 2+ years for the games to come on PC rather than get a PlayStation.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point, Dom. Like, so for a long while, PlayStation's draw was its exclusive games. Like, it had a ton of like amazing exclusive games, but like you said, now most of them are being ported to PC, and obviously not right away. It takes a couple years or even more in some cases than that. So like now, like what's the point of having a PlayStation or an Xbox when you can get PlayStation and Xbox games on PC, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Me,
Yeah.
I guess the only draw really is having like having it hooked up to your TV in your living room and like being able to lean back on the couch and play. That and also it's a lot cheaper than buying a gaming PC that is able to have the same specs uh as
You
a
also get all the
PlayStation.
you've also got all the features with a dual sense controller here when you're on the PlayStation, which if you guys have a PS5, this is such a great feeling controller to use. Like
Oh, it's amazing.
when you're playing Ratchet and Clank, like if you're using like a minigun type of weapon, there's like little feedback in your trigger, so you kind of feel it recoil against you as you're pressing it, and it just feels so good
Yeah.
to play with like shooting games and stuff.
Yeah, the DualSense 5 for me, like it's probably like the
The best
biggest jump
controller.
in controllers I can think of. Like
I
the with the adaptive feedback and the triggers, the haptic feedback vibration, like it's such an amazing controller and the shape of it's perfect.
It's
Yeah.
It's
just like it's the
really
best
good.
controller on the market, I think.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
It just makes
agree.
your gaming experience more immersive. It's so cool.
Yeah. Um, have are any of you guys into like VR, virtual reality at all?
I got a Quest 2. It's
Oh,
fun.
nice.
I've played Super Hot VR and I've also played a medieval VR.
Hmm.
Wait.
A medieval is
Um,
like a retro styled FPS where it's a first person shooter, but you don't have any guns. They're all like magic weapons, like a mace that shoots a hurl of ice spikes, or your rocket launcher is a staff that launches planets at people.
Hmm,
nice.
sounds cool. Yeah,
Um,
sorry, Liam. Go ahead.
oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, my roommate, he actually has a Quest. And then also my buddy up at Penn State, he just got the PSVR 2 for Christmas. Uh,
Cool.
and yeah, it's VR is fun. I mean, my favorite game is easily Beat Saber. I think it's just a cooler Guitar Hero in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, it's a great time, but I mean, if I were to own one, I don't think I'd be on it all the time. Like it'd just be like, ah, you know what? I feel like playing a song on Beat Saber here and there, but I don't think I would
Yeah.
ever put my money into VR.
Yeah, no, same. I always kind of thought VR was almost like gimmicky. But I've never even tried it. Like I'm kind of a hater, not gonna lie. I've always been like, oh, it's like I'd rather just play on my TV or monitor. Uh,
Yeah.
but like I get the appeal. Like it really does immerse you. And I wanted to see if any of you had a PSVR too, because I don't have the money for it now, but like down the line, like it'd be cool to get one and try out some of the games
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah,
My thing
so
with
yeah,
PSVR is that it's the price of a whole console, but you
Hmm.
still need the console itself.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Yeah.
checked it. The price is like $550 for a
Hmm.
new one.
Yeah, my buddy, he had the both PSVRs. He had the first one for the PS4 and then he got the PSVR 2 for Christmas. Um for his PS5. And it's cool. It's fun. There's like a lot of different things you can do on it. Um, and like there's some cool games that they make specifically for VR. So like like how they have like exclusive games like Horizon Zero Dawn. Well,
Yeah.
they also made like a PSVR version of it, um, which is pretty cool. I've never played it, but I remember I've mentioned here on the podcast like Borderlands. It's my favorite series. They have a Borderlands VR, it's cool, but the problem is it gives me like motion sickness, like just being in it. I'm like, I can only
Yeah,
for like
Yeah.
20 minutes at a time, and I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm getting nauseous, you know?
it's
Yeah.
tricky in some games when you're like a character that walks around because you control the movement by turning around, but you're also walking, and then I'll use the right joystick because that also adjusts the camera. Sometimes
Hmm.
just to see how dizzy I can make myself, I will push the trigger in one direction while I spin my body in the other just to see how much it messes
Oh
me up.
gosh, I could never do that.
Wow.
It's a really dumb decision. Don't do it, but do it.
Yeah, that's one
You
of the
know,
common complaints I've heard about virtual reality is just the motion sickness.
hmm it's really for certain games, like Justin mentioned, like the games like where you're controlling and like moving in the world. Like that's like the type of game. But like if you're just like standing still, like Beat Saber's a game like that. Like I could play Beat Saber for hours on end without getting motion sickness because you're just standing there and the blocks are just kind of coming at you.
Right.
But yeah. Also another thing, I don't know if you guys knew this. My brother, he used to he used to go to Westchester. He's a Westchester alumni. And in town, in the borough, there used to be a VR arcade that he used to
Hmm.
work at. And it sucks because they shut down because they weren't getting enough people because they were charging like $50 an hour just to like use VR.
Yeah, that's just
Like
too much.
I'm like in a college town, I'm like you're charging way too much. That's like almost the price of a video game and you're just gonna let me play for an hour. Like if you want to get people in, like $10, like I'll do $10 maybe. But like
Yeah. That's
it was a
just
good idea, but
that's just too steep, especially for college students that are like, don't have a ton of money because they're paying for college or,
yeah.
like they don't have time to work that much, like I don't have the money to pay $50 an hour to play VR.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it's a cool idea in hindsight, like having a
It
VR
is.
arcade, but you just need to make it, affordable for people,
Yeah.
because that's clearly too much. I think the only time I'll ever invest in VR is if it turns into something like Ready Player One. If you guys seen that movie,
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a
the
great
book,
movie.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
yeah. But other than that, like it's not on my mind right now. It's too much.
Yeah.
Uh,
I could see it getting like really amazing in the future.
for
Uh,
sure.
like when graphics become almost like real life. Like
Yeah.
I can't even imagine putting on a virtual reality headset and like being fully immersed into another world where like it looks like real life. Like
Yeah.
Uh,
that would be scary in my opinion.
yeah, no,
I'm
that would
excited.
that would mess with me because I feel like it's got to hook up to your brain somehow.
There's a Black Mirror episode about that. I forget which season it is, but there's this Black Mirror episode about this like super advanced virtual reality that hooks into your brain and it becomes like super real, like hyper
Yeah.
realistic to the point where the guy can't distinguish reality from this virtual reality. It's
Yeah.
like just talking about it gives me like like sends like shivers down my spine like
I've
because it's
yeah.
scary.
I've seen
There's
that
also
episode. It's I
Yeah.
think it's season three. I think it's called Playtest. If you
Oh
haven't
yeah.
watched,
Yeah, you're right.
highly recommend.
It's one of my favorite episodes. It's scary.
Yeah, that is.
there's also that anime Sword Art Online, which is divisive. I'm in the camp that the first 13 episodes are good, but it's just downhill after that. But the premise for the initial start of the story is they're in this VR world, but if they die in the game, they die for real. But then it's
Mhm.
like the guy who's trapping them in there explains, oh yeah, the VR headsets, they're just gonna fry your brain, like turn them into goo if you take it off or try and like stop, or if you die in the game. That's what freaks me about that kind of VR is because again, it has to connect to your brain, so it could
Yeah.
totally mess your brain up.
Oh
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
it's funny. I actually have watched Sword Art. That was actually the first anime I've ever watched. Didn't enjoy anything after the first season, but I always did think it was a cool concept. Like, well, not necessarily the dying part. The dying part's not cool, but like how like they were just fully immersed into it. Like they could do whatever they want in this world. Like, you know, they could have their own business, or they could go and fight on these levels and fight bosses and stuff like that. Like when a game like develops like that, where like especially when it's online and you could see and interact with people like that, I think it'll, oh my gosh, it'll change VR forever.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Anything else right now, or
Trying to
Uh,
think of other topics. Let's see. We talked about PS Pro, PS5 Pro,
hmm
the death of Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, upcoming games that we're excited for, AI, VR. I think that's pretty good.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess this was Palm Blisters episode 5 then.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
So
everybody.
hopefully, we may not see you all next week because it's our spring break, but maybe
Yeah.
we'll.
Hey, we could
Maybe
always
we'll
do
do-
another virtual session if we really want to.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Until next time, have a good one.
Yeah. Make
Peace.
sure to like and subscribe. Check out our TikTok. It's called Palm
Check out the other
Blisters.
Check out the other podcasts on WCU Talk.
That's right. All right. Peace out, guys.
See you.
See you.